Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and again, thank you for the privilege of being before your committee and presenting this bill that is sponsored by Governor Otter, myself as State Superintendent, the Pro Tem, the Speaker of the House, and yourself, Senator, as the Chairman of the Senate Education Committee. I think the magnitude of these bills and the discussion that we'll have for the next few days warrants that kind of support and that kind of leadership for the kinds of changes that are necessary if we're going to assure that our children continue to make academic progress and are prepared properly for the world that awaits them in the 21st century. What I'd like to do is begin by reviewing with you some of the changes that have been made since I last stood before you a few weeks ago and presented to the Joint Committee. First, this Students Come First plan now comes to you in two major pieces of legislation rather than one. The Modernization and Reform Bill and the Labor Entitlements Bill. Second, the requirements for online credits have been changed from 8 credits to 6 credits. Also, students will have the flexibility to take these credits throughout their high school years. We heard from many local superintendents who have future plans of their students graduating from high school with multiple college credits, most of them to be delivered through online courses, but primarily the junior and senior year of high school. And so while they did not have an issue with the number of credits required, they wanted the flexibility to be able to offer them in the junior and senior year primarily, and so we give that flexibility now to local districts to make those decisions. Local districts have the option of accessing online courses in many ways through the Idaho Education Network. They can choose courses offered by the Idaho Digital Learning Academy, or IDLA, a blended model which can be developed at the local level where students have a teacher in the classroom 1 or 2 days a week and then do online activities the other days. Or they can work with other providers that meet Idaho's content standards. Local districts will decide the courses that will be taken be taken through these required online courses, and so it provides the flexibility that they've requested. Third, I want to clarify that local school districts will have local control over the mobile computing devices, what we refer to today as a laptop, but could very easily in a year or two be some other type of device like an iPad or some kind of a tablet. The law is very flexible in recognizing that as technologies change, as local districts' needs are different, that there is flexibility for local districts in how they will best utilize this technology. Districts will decide if the computing devices are used only during the school day or whether they can be checked out and taken home. These mobile computing devices will be secure. The state will supply the necessary technical support, maintenance, and security. And just as with any other computer, and there are thousands of them today in our schools, the devices will be equipped with filtering software, and they'll meet the requirements of district internet use policies in accordance with current Idaho code. What else has changed? Well, we know that our economic situation is worse than when we talked just a few weeks ago. At the beginning of January, when this legislature came to town, our public schools faced a shortfall of $35 million. Now that shortfall has grown to as much as $80 million, and some project even more. Some people want to ignore the reality of this situation, this funding cliff that we now face, but it cannot be denied, and it is the most compelling issue that brings us today. The state is broke. Our country is broke. And the current education system we have today is not financially sustainable. The status quo of our education system is collapsing under its own weight. look at what we've done over the past 2 years in attempting to sustain the current system. We've drained more than $100 million from our school's rainy day fund. We went to the land board and got an additional $22 million of one-time money last year. I moved almost $6 million from my State Department education budget to public schools to help minimize cuts. And we've relied on over $200 million in federal bailouts. When that wasn't enough, we completely eliminated all the funding for textbooks. We've eliminated all the funding for technology, all the funding for classroom supplies and materials. We've eliminated all the funding for gifted and talented students and safe and drug-free schools programs. When that wasn't enough, we shifted all of the $20 million that we used to maintain our facilities into operations to minimize cuts to salaries and benefits, and we cut our transportation budgets. We reduced the budget for reading initiative, for the math initiative, and for the remediation programs, those programs that help our students who are struggling and need the most help academically. And when that wasn't enough, we cut teacher pay, and districts instituted furlough days, chopping days off the calendar. Some districts as many as 10 to 15 days they eliminated from their school calendar. And if we do nothing different, then we're going to face more of the same. In fact, it'll be even worse, and some will continue to have to cut more and more days from their school calendars because we have cut or shifted, and we have used Band-Aids and tourniquets all that we can. And we can no longer continue to go down this path because we no longer have one-time money, we no longer have any rainy day funds, and we will no longer have federal bailouts to prop up the current system. We have all talked about this funding cliff for the past 2 years. This should be no surprise to anyone. We knew this day was coming, and now it's here. And so what we face are 3 options. We can continue to cannibalize the current system, which means cut another $35 to $80 million out, which means more days off the school calendar, cut teacher pay more, because that's the only place left to cut in the budget. We've eliminated all the children's programs. And so it's the only place left to cut. We can raise taxes to prop up the current system, but survey after survey and poll after poll and information that is made available has told us, and definitely November 2nd told us that people of Idaho do not want the legislature to raise their taxes to solve government's budget issues. Or the third option is we can change the system. We can spend what we have differently to educate more students at a higher level with limited resources, and students come first is that option. I have not heard another plan proposed that does not cut our schools more. So I want to review with you quickly what we can accomplish through the Students Come First plan. We can raise student achievement. We can build on the progress we have made in student achievement over the past 4 years. Idaho students are doing better academically than they were just 4 years ago. In the past 3 years, we've increased the number of schools meeting our state academic goals from 26% to 62%. This isn't by accident. It's because of our great teachers and administrators, our wonderful students, and our dedicated parents. But while we celebrate this success, we recognize that we still have a long ways to go. And we cannot sustain this academic progress in an underfunded education system. Student achievement will suffer. Students Come First empowers local school boards, those people elected to make decisions about education in each local community. The plan gives local school boards more flexibility to manage local workforce by phasing out tenure and eliminating seniority. The plan gives local school boards the authority to make decisions about school calendars, bell schedules, employee evaluations, and other district-level matters by focusing collective bargaining and addressing the evergreen clause in master agreements. The plan empowers local school board trustees to determine the best technology for their classrooms and students and to determine how best to deliver online learning. We can prepare our students to live in the 21st century classroom, and the Students Come First plan will do that by implementing more rigorous and relevant standards, by incorporating technology into every classroom and environment, by teaching students how to learn in a digital age, and above all, making sure that every student has a highly effective teacher and a highly effective principal every year they're in school. The business community has overwhelmingly come out in support of this plan. And it's not for the reasons you might have read on blogs or in letters to the editor. These businesses are owned by parents, and they will not see lucrative gains from contracts related to Students Come First. In fact, most of them have little or no business relationships with their local school districts. The reason they support it is because they are parents, and they have employees who have children in our school system, and also as employers, they will be the employers of our future students, and they know the level of that they need our students to perform academically in order for them to be successful. They know that today that far too many children are graduating without the skills they need to be successful in life after high school. Just imagine what this will be like in a public school system that is trying to function on $235 to $280 million less dollars. They want what is best for Idaho's kids because they need a highly skilled workforce, and Students Come First makes that happen. Now, I understand there have been many questions and concerns about the plans. I've heard objections to the laptops, the online courses, and increased class sizes. Some of these concerns are logical, and we have changed our plan accordingly, but most of these concerns are based on misinformation. So let me address the most common misconceptions about the Students Come First plan right now. The first myth is Students Come First will not increase teacher pay. That's not true. In fact, the exact opposite is true. If you look at the graph that we provided with you, did we hand these out? If you look at this pie chart, you will see that over the next 5 years, that by increasing class size by 1 to 2 students, it will save us roughly $500 million over the next 5 years. Of that money, $265 million of that goes into increasing teacher pay. $174 million fills the hole that we have in our current budget over the next 5 years. Only $114 million of it is for technology. But again, if you look at this graph, this pie chart breaks this out into a number of different areas, and you'll see that the majority of the money goes to increasing teacher salaries. And there's an additional $15 million for professional development. Nobody has put forth a plan or even an idea that has the prospect of increasing teacher pay this year and increasing teacher pay by over $250 million over the next 5 years. The next myth that you will see, that you will hear, is online courses do not include a teacher and are not as effective as traditional courses. The fact is that online courses are being taught today by Idaho certified teachers. And today, 15,000 students in Idaho are taking online courses from Idaho certified teachers, many of them whom teach in our traditional schools by day and then teach for IDLA in the evenings. This will continue under the Students Come First plan. In order for an online course to be delivered, it will have to be taught by an Idaho certified teacher, just like it is today, and it must meet Idaho's academic achievement standards, just like it does today. I find it interesting that last year, when the governor floated the idea of reducing the state funding for online learning, that the same people today that are questioning the value of online learning were championing online learning. They were here telling us how valuable it was, how necessary it was, how every district in the state used it, and how students needed it. So I'm suspect as to why today their opinion of online learning has changed. The next myth, laptops will replace teachers. No technology is replacing any teacher. In fact, the Students Come First plan focuses on making sure a highly effective teacher is in every classroom and a highly effective principal in every building. To do this, the state is giving Idaho teachers more technology to help manage more students. The state will invest $6,000 per classroom in technology, which includes professional development for teachers. In addition, the plan will ensure every high school has a 1-to-1 ratio of students to computers to enhance a child's learning experience in the classroom. The funding for the mobile computing devices, or laptops as we call them today, incorporates professional development for teachers on how to incorporate these devices and technology into their curriculum and into all aspects of learning. This technology will help teachers, not replace teachers. The next myth is that local school districts or parents will bear the burden of funding technical support, maintenance, and repairs to these mobile devices. The fact is that if you read the bill, you would know that all technical support, security, maintenance, repairs, and replacements of these mobile computing devices will be covered by the state to ensure every student has access to the laptop for the full 4 years. It will not cost parents or local school districts additional dollars. Local school districts will have the flexibility to institute policies on how students can use these devices on a day-to-day basis. As I said before, whether they take them home, whether they check them out, or whether they use them in the classroom setting, for example. What these devices become is not only a child's access to online courses, which will be required of them when they're in high school, but it becomes their textbook for every class. It becomes their research device in science. It becomes their calculator in math. It's their word processor when they're in English. In other words, this device covers a multitude of needs that students have, and it simplifies and reduces the expenses on the state and local districts in meeting those needs. The next myth, increasing class size will hurt student achievement. When you take a comprehensive look at all the credible research available, you will find no substantial correlation between class sizes and student outcomes. And we've provided you with those studies. Instead, research supports that the greatest factor in increasing student achievement is the quality of the teacher in the classroom. A highly effective teacher, no matter the size of the class, raises student achievement. An ineffective teacher, no matter the size of the class, does not raise student achievement. The fact is, great teachers know how to handle one or more students in their classroom. They do it every day. Besides, what are the other options? Through Students Come First, we give teachers the additional tools they need to handle one or more students in their classroom and then reward them for their excellent work. If we do nothing, if we stay with the status quo, we will have to cut schools more. That will mean teachers will have larger class sizes, but no additional technology, no additional pay, and less time in the classroom with their students. Those are the options. I think everyone should ask themselves why parents, teachers, principals, and citizens of Idaho have been so riled up about laptops, online courses, and class sizes. Why has the debate over the past 3 weeks focused on these topics and not on the serious funding cliff we now face, or on the state phasing out tenure or limiting collective bargaining? Why are parents receiving letters and messages from school districts and teacher union representatives such as students will lose music elective classes, or these online courses will be taken at school but without a certified teacher in the classroom, or we have no choice but to shift to a system where laptops replace many teachers? One district even sent out information to all of their parents saying the district will receive $2,000 less per pupil than the amount we receive today for the same enrollment, basically telling their parents that the funding for their school will be cut in half. It's not true, and it wasn't until after we were made aware of this by many parents that we contacted the school district and they realized they had made a typo and they agreed to send out a correction. But the damage was done. Parents in that district, and you'll probably hear from many of them, are convinced that if this plan goes through, the funding for their district will be cut in half. Now, you might ask yourself why the leaders of the teachers union said it, why? So much focus on laptops and online classes. I think the leaders of the teachers union said it themselves and posted it online when they said it's easier to get the public riled up about laptops and online classes than contract issues. There has been an organized attempt to get people riled up, and they know by their own words it's easier to get people riled up over laptops and online courses than contract issues. That is why we have heard these concerns over and over again. I have received them in my office, and you've received them in your mailboxes. It's an intentional attempt to get people riled up and to deflect what is really the issue. None of the concerns that have been raised are correct. Electives will not go up because a fraction of a student's credits requirements will be delivered online. Idaho's certified teachers will teach every online course. Neither laptops or any technology will replace teachers in the classroom. The truth is the opposition is not really about technology in the classroom. The opposition is not about online courses. The opposition is not about laptops. It's about tenure. It's about collective bargaining. It's about returning authority to local school boards, the people elected at the local level to make decisions for local schools. But those issues don't get people riled up. Those issues don't get parents to come out in full force to the State House. And at the end of the day, we must remember the real reason for Students Come First and the real opposition behind it. The real reason I stand before you today is because we face a funding cliff. We are in an economic crisis, and we cannot see new revenues to make up the $235 million to $280 million budget gap that we face today. As I told you before, projections tell us that if the economy were to grow at 4% a year for the next 10 years, and that's a very optimistic forecast, but if they were to grow at 4% for the next 10 years, that's how long it would take before per-pupil spending in Idaho was equal to what it was 2 years ago before we cut our schools. That's not acceptable. If I'm a parent and I have a second grader today, that child will be a senior in high school before per-pupil spending is equal to what it is today. We can't have a whole generation of students go through this underfunded system. We have to change the system. We have to spend what we actually have differently. And to do that, we have to make tough decisions. I agree they aren't easy. We must increase class size slightly. We must reduce the number of teaching positions statewide slightly. But we can't stop there, because if all we do is increase class size, then all we have accomplished is we will end up with a system that will educate more students with limited resources. Our goal is to educate more students at a higher level with limited resources. And to make that happen, we have to invest in advanced technology for every classroom teacher. We have to ensure every high school has a 1-to-1 ratio of students to computers. We must increase teacher pay and reward excellence in the classroom. We must phase out tenure, eliminate seniority, and return authority to the local level, to the locally elected school boards. Today, it's almost impossible to reward great teachers and remove poor teachers. If we are truly going to put students first, we must remove the barriers to both. We must put our schools back on a firm financial footing, and this is the best option we have before us. The teachers' union and other education stakeholder groups have never put forth another option or innovative idea to put our public schools back on firm financial footing. When asked in August for their budget ideas, they put forth more of the same. Cut critical student programs. That's not the solution. Their ideas were to eliminate the math initiative, eliminate the reading initiative, eliminate remediation for struggling students. Again, this is not the solution. As state superintendent, I will not leave the fate of our public education system to others. We must build on the progress we've made over the past 4 years and ensure we can make progress in the future. We cannot make progress if we are facing a $235 million to $300 million budget gap. There's just no way to keep this current system moving forward with that kind of a gap. So we have to return our financial system around, and this plan does that. Over the next couple of days, you will hear from many who will defend the status quo. Some may even declare that they would rather take drastic cuts to the current system than do the hard work of changing the system. Folks, the risks of doing nothing are too great. As John F. Kennedy said, there are risks and costs to a program of action, but they are far less than the long-range risks and costs of comfortable inaction. We must act. Students Come First it takes on that responsibility of assuring that our children today and tomorrow have an education system that can meet their needs and prepare them for the world that awaits them. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'll be happy to take your questions. Thank you.